Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you're just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and welcome back to another episode of our Disasters of War series. This series is a creative series where we are trying to help you guys in different situations. Indeed, it is a collaborative series. We basically help guys in their save game situations. We help them with battles, we help them with campaign issues, and we are back again with Mr. Beowulf and his solid army here, trying to expand his fledgling kingdom here. Now I'll talk a little bit about this, the recap of the previous 3 episodes. I couldn't resist doing one more episode here with this guy and his army, because he's not quite at what I consider a good solid safe spot to advance. We've got war with the Northern Empire. We still have large tribute payments due for both the Valandians and the Khazate, and I'm going to try to help him get to sort of that next tier before we turn over this save game. Now all he had was Varcheg, and his Reddit post said something to the effect of, "Am I cooked? I think I'm screwed." Well, we helped defend Varcheg against Sturgeons. We helped expand his realm in the north, the Revel. We've added Revel, the city of Revel, Ustakol. In fact, Revel is highly profitable. That's going to be very beneficial for him. And then last episode, we added Flintold Castle. Now, still a relatively small kingdom, right? He's got 2 castles and 2 cities. He does have a decent pile of money, and we're now actually positive for day-to-day expenses, right? Expected change 2,700. The Sturgeons, meanwhile, have been exiled to a single castle in the middle of nowhere. I suspect they will be eliminated soon, if not in this episode. Now we're going to seek open field battles, but I think we will also try to take a castle or 2 here. We've got his army is starting to flesh out a little bit. I realized I didn't have a moment to put up the guy's email. I haven't give you guys that moment yet to put up his email. So what I think we'll do here is I could just summarize essentially all the things I just said. Daniel is dealing with multiple different kingdoms where he's at war. In fact, we can show you the diplomatic situation real quick. Again, he's paying off Khazate. These kingdoms have a much larger kingdom size than him, right? The total strength there is generally refers to how many troops are in the field. Not necessarily 10,000 troops, but a very powerful amount of troops in the field, while Daniel does not. Beowulf has a much smaller army. Now here's some troops in the field, and we're very eager to fight the Northern Empire here in the open. Why? Because he's starting to develop a pretty strong army. Not only does he have a bunch of tier 5 units, tier 4 units, but he's got what I consider a pretty optimal mix of units. Now, maybe I would switch these numbers. I would prefer a little bit more archers actually than infantry for the open field battles, but I still think this is going to suffice to take on a force basically twice our size here. Northern Empire, this guy's got kind of an even mixed army, and I'm not running here, right? Well, the only thing I'm doing is I'm stalling for daylight so that you guys can see us smash this force in the open. Now, I wish that other army joined. In fact, now this guy's literally running. He ran into the city. Wow. Well, or ran into the castle. That gives you a little hint of, our army strength there. If they run from you, generally the AI is saying, we can't win, right? And so they're choosing to fight another day. Now, I still think we'll be able to engage here. Just a little bit of dancing around the edges of the battle here, a little cat and mouse game. And we should be able to get these armies to engage. Just a tip right here. At some point or other, this guy will probably attack me because the AI does a little calculation and says, hey, if we combine our forces here, we can win. This is precisely what we want because, of course, we want to destroy this force before we siege Mazadon Castle. I didn't actually, you can see it right there. I was going to say I didn't see what he was doing, but look at that. Traveling to Flint Old Castle to besiege, right? This guy was going to head up there. Now we can put him in the dirt in dramatic fashion here before he's able to do that.
However much
Oh, it's the Emperor. Oh, this pompous guy with his stupid helmet. All right, let's smash the Emperor here. You can see the power bar, right? It's about equal, but anybody who watches the channel knows that means the enemy's about to be obliterated here. Now we put away, he's got a nice glaive. Let's put Sovereign. He's got this savage two-handed polearm. Daniel has an outstanding character. Beowulf is very well spec'd. His units are very well created. They have a nice mix of banners and stuff like that. And this should be a thorough pounding. If we're lucky, it'll be in a battlefield where we can pull off a Peekaboo Ridge on top of everything else. And I'm going to fight these battles a little bit slower. Now, we don't have the RTS mod. I want to mention that, in fact, we have no mods. Daniel is playing this with all the achievements activated on the hardest difficulty. It's not Iron Man, but it's basically the hardest difficulty you can play with vanilla. And there's no mods available at all. Now, this is not perfect, but it's going to be more than effective for our purposes. In fact, I recognize this landscape, this battlefield, it's certainly going to work for our purposes here. The enemy's got this steep hill they've got to come over. In fact, fans of the Valandian campaign understand exactly, I think, where we are, right? We're on the reverse side of the crazy battle at the Golern Heights. I won't talk too much about that here because some of you guys have never heard of that, no idea what I'm talking about, but almost exactly where that battle occurred. So let's do some tactics here, right? Let's look at our infantry first. You got to make sure you have the right units in the right positions. I want mostly shield infantry in here, and I'm going to shrink this army just a little bit because I want there to be a good amount of infantry in the 6th Division. 6th Division is skirmishers, and you get it by hitting that little skirmisher button. When I zoom in here, almost every guy has a throwing weapon, although it's kind of, there's kind of a lack of javelins there, and sometimes that happens when you have shields in your 1st Division. So I'm actually going to reverse this real quick and then add shields, and there should be now more javelins in that 6th Division. This is sort of a tedious process with Bannerlord. In fact, there's still not very many javelins in here. Part of the problem is that Daniel's army simply doesn't have a lot of skirmishers, right? He's got quite a few shock troops in here, and he has sort of quite a few what I consider sort of vanilla troops. Vanilla troops being troops that they don't have any specialty. They just have a shield, sword, and a spear. All right, so we'll square this 1st Division, but we're going to move them up there. I'm actually going to put the skirmishers downhill, which might seem counterintuitive, but they will bore in on that flank. The shock troops are to our right here. Now, not every guy in here is a shock troop either. There's a mix of infantry. In fact, there's some skirmishers in there, but there's a nice mix of infantry. It actually doesn't matter tremendously that the units are where you want them to be. The big key here is we're going to use them to collapse upon any enemy attack. And we're going to protect our units a little bit. On this side, we'll put this 8th Cavalry Corps just in a shield wall, right there next to the infantry. All that does is protect them from being shot. It protects them from being charged by cavalry. Over on this side, very similar, right? We'll just put the 2nd Cavalry there. Very, very simple setup. And I must say, almost all of this can be done before battle. Now we go into battle. There'll be a little bit of movement during this battle. In fact, we're just going to move some of these troops up. They started kind of far away. And once the battle starts, you will see essentially the differences here, right? Very, very, very subtle movements of different units here, right? This 1st Division is going to play defensive, so we'll put them right here at the base of the hill. The reason we're not going over that hill is we don't want to be shot by their 111 archers, right? We want their archers to come to us. As long as we're down here, the enemy attacked us. That's a critical distinction here. The enemy is not forced to come to our location. Now, I'm going to move our archers up here. We don't actually want our archers, like a lot of guys would say, hey, put your archers up on the hill. If you do that, the enemy can see your archers easier from the other side. We want them to come over this Peekaboo Ridge. This is a very, very classic, easy tactic that I'm really very much trying to spread across Reddit and across the realm. Again, so infantry on both sides. The 3rd Division is over there. The 6th Division is over here. Both wings have a protective cavalry division in a shield wall. And here come the soon-to-be-dead Northern Empire forces. This division here, you can either shield wall or I prefer a square. Their cavalry probably will charge our sides here at some point. That's precisely why we have those cav divisions there. Our archers are starting to shoot. Their infantry is going to come in here at some point and probably attack the square. If they don't attack the square, it'll just delay their death. If they attack the square, it'll make it even faster death, right? Even more ugly victory. Or ugly defeat for the enemy here. Soften them up a little bit. Notice this cav division is almost at the edge of this infantry, right? They're almost hitting our cavalry. We're not really concerned about that because these are infantrymen, right? If the cavalry does leak into here, this savage infantry is very happy to attack infantry. All right, so enemies wrapped around our square. All I'm doing with that square is just pulling it back, right? Those guys can move while they're in a square. They're a little bit less defendable in that manner, right? They're kind of getting banged around and stuff like that. Now we begin the attack. This 8th Corps, what I want to do is just draw that line right around the enemy infantry. Right? On the other side, you can actually just tell those horsemen to follow me so that they come towards us. Now the enemy backed off the square here. We're still going to attack. I'm going to drag the 2nd, 6th, 3rd, everybody in here at the same time, and the infantry now I'm going to bring our direction here. Right? And what the enemy has done, look at this. There are our forces all the way around this poor enemy infantry division. At this stage, you can simply F1, F3. And this enemy force, completely surrounded by different troops, is about to be obliterated. In fact, here's the Emperor. He walked right into the trap like a dipshit. He can add to the destroy. Right? He's completely hapless here. He's going to attack sympathetic. A couple of swings, and he just literally melted the ball. I didn't even have to do anything. Nothing too complicated there. Now the archers are sort of in the battle for the enemy. They did put their guys up on the ridge over here, but there's an easy counter to that. We'll take a cav division, and we will drag it up here and just put it in a shield wall. See that line of green flags? I'm going to have them go to that position. You can count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That helps them get to that spot faster, and now they can go into a shield wall. What that does is it keeps those archers busy. Those cavalry will do a lot of blocking and stuff like that. They will hold up their shields here. In fact, we can do a little unit inspection here. The enemy archers have actually decided to charge, but this cavalry would have stopped many of their arrows had they kept shooting them. Now this battle is completely over. We might as well sort of finish it and flourish here. We'll have the cavalry follow us and just cut right through the ranks here. Their archers are scattering all over the place, trying to get a shot or two in, and it's just a textbook destruction of this emperor and his pathetic force. Now I think this army here pretty well explains and emphasizes the reason why I use difficulty mods in Bannerlord. This is supposedly a good army. The Emperor, this is 600 Northern Empire forces. I know a lot of players are still just crushing this kind of force, but we didn't crush this force. This is we're too strong, like that archer said, right? We could just literally wade through here, and maybe we have 100 losses, right? 101 losses here as our army reigns superior. Now that was not even the best tactical example. It was kind of sloppy. They didn't really fully engage our square. There's a lot more devastating things that we could have done there. And I'll reiterate, if we had more archers, the slaughter would have been greater. But alas, right, it still doesn't matter. A nice little ratio here, 3-to-1 upgrades to dead. That's the kind of ratio you want. I would actually prefer 5-to-1. That's kind of if I'm a professor and I'm grading it, I would say 5-to-1 is your A plus margin. You want to have a lot of upgrades for death, right? If you're having half the upgrades for the death, you're not fighting very effectively, not fighting very efficiently. As usual, I'm overzealous here on the prisoners. We will just do these upgrades here and move along. And I think it makes sense now that they're destroyed, to go quickly to a blitzing of Mazadon Castle. It's right in front of us. We'll take all this loot. We'll drag the Emperor. Maybe we'll toss him into the dungeon here after we take this city. Now, we only have 250 troops, but we've got this guy coming to us, right? This Godun. We'll keep an eye to see if this army becomes available. But this is going to be more than enough, right? We're sort of early in the campaign. It says 1102, so on some level, Beowulf here has been playing out a rather lengthy campaign. But the enemy forces we're facing are just not materially threatening, right? They're 400 here. I haven't seen too many armies of 1,000 plus, although we did destroy an army of about 1,000 Northern Empire at Varcheg. Already, they're forming an army here, more pigs to the slaughter. And again, we welcome being attacked here. I would welcome being attacked by 900 here. That probably won't happen, but if it does, it'll benefit us. Now notice we're fully healed. The time it took to build our siege weapons here has allowed at least our troops to heal all the way up, right? We don't have any injured troops in our army. This guy's gathering all the Northern Empire fucks he can find. They're heading to Flintolk, but we're not going to leave now, right? We've spent a day and a half, 2 days here working on siege, working on taking this castle. We're going to blaze this as fast as we can. I'm not going to auto-resolve, though. We will just do simply a quick blitz of this castle here. I can hit this button to speed it up. We built the trebuchet because we want to pound down whatever catapults they have in there. They're going to light up Flintolk, right? 3, 2, 1. Flintolk is under siege, but we will simply head over there and smash them before they can take it. There it goes. You know, they may siege down half the force by the time we make it up there. It's probably 2 days march from here. I'm not going to wait in this instance for the siege tower. For the siege tower. We're going to have ladders, and more importantly, we're going to have all of the enemy catapults destroyed. In fact, we just destroyed a wall. Some guys would say do it right now, right? It's almost dark. I will simply go here right as soon as that ram is built. We could probably do this siege, you know, without the ram, just a hole in the wall and a ladder. But since it was just a few extra seconds there to build that ram and expedite this process, I just decided no reason to worry about it. Now, super sloppy here. We came into this keep without even assigning our units. Just doesn't matter, right? We're still going to be able to make 4 infantry divisions. I can very quickly divide our units there. I'll cover that real quick. A lot of guys are like, how the heck did you do it? What'd you do? How'd you divide those divisions? Is that a mod? Nope. That is simply vanilla Bannerlord, and that is the kind of thing that you can set up just by doing F2 and F3. It's a vanilla command. I've mentioned it a couple times, but just to reiterate, we don't have any mods, right? Daniel is playing in an unmodded campaign here. Now, I don't think anybody gave you guys permission to exit the city. I need you guys to all stay in the city here so we can rack up a bunch of gold and influence and skill points and stuff like that. These hapless little Sturgeon forces here. Just to minimize casualties here, I'm going to get these ladders going. I like shield walling infantry at this stage, right? We're being shot. This first division, send them in. In fact, I want them going up the ladder here. So again, you use these little blue gears. Oh shit, we got some siege guy down there trying to blow us up. Our catapult guy down there is not real accurate. First division's on the ladders. Got these little trenches here. Some of the first is going through the main gate. I would prefer they did not do that. Like these guys over here are actually going to get in the way. Let's go ahead and just bring these guys right into the keep here. Just completely truck all these defenders. These poor guys here. Second division being pulled into the keep, and I've mentioned this before. Do not charge their units. Now it said charge there briefly, but very quickly I just changed that command to follow me, right? I don't want these units charging. I don't want them getting stuck. And look how quickly they just amoeba their way into the keep. Can bring a couple archer divisions in behind him, but this is going to be a blaze. There's naked dudes out here for some reason. Put some clothes on at least, man. And that's precisely the sound you make when you get hit by a javelin when you're naked. All right. Very, very quick siege here as they run for the hills. Maybe we'll suffer 10 losses. Now, part of the reason, again, you're doing all this is that units are important. I'm able just to flatten the enemy here, but a lot of players out there are still not tactically advanced like we show on the channel. In order to make sure you win these battles, after battles like this, part of the reason you want to fight tactically and have the low amount of losses is so that you have plenty of troops for the next fight. Right? Bannerlord is absolutely a war of attrition, and that is the kind of success we need here to not suffer too much attrition. 9 losses. Now, we don't have a lot of defenders. We're starting to get a little bit stretched thin over our various different cities and keeps, right? This is now the 3rd castle we've taken. And think about what we're going to have to do. We are going to have to run to the northwest to deal with Flintolk Castle. So I need to put some garrison in here, but it can't be too many. We're talking 80, maybe 100. Our AI units are putting in some. It's fine. We can actually steal their troops. I want to decide which units are in here. For example, I'm going to put some of these archers. I'm also going to put some of these units that I don't think are really as strong as they probably could be. Some guys will say don't put cavalry and stuff like that in there, and I'm really sort of suffering for troops to put in here. We need these troops, right? I have to be able to have some troops to fight in the open. This happens in a Bannerlord campaign at this stage. As you expand, you need to sort of consolidate your games. In other words, it makes it very difficult to play fast, because obviously if we just went straight to the next castle siege, you know, now we're talking we have 150, 200 in troops, maybe 250, minus whatever we leave in the garrison. You can't even leave a modest defense force, right? It's not going to be sufficient. Now we're going to run up here and deal with this force. They'll probably siege down half the castle by the time we get down there, and more than likely this will be under siege, right? 91 defenders at Mazadon Castle. The Northern Empire is drooling at that, right? The units that are out there in the game right now are going to drool at that. And this is really interesting here. Potential problems here for Daniels. Now, let's see this shit. What we want is Kazate and Valandia to fight. And I'll talk a little bit about campaign strategy. This is optimal, right? Kazate and Valandia are fighting. So the two largest kingdoms that are kind of right next to you are fighting. If one of them declared war on you, immediately pay them for peace. In fact, of course, we're paying both of them for peace. And that is very necessary here, simply because of the size of their armies. Eventually, we'll be large enough force to challenge those armies. In fact, even right now, we could fight their armies, but we would suffer a lot of losses. Right? We can do a 2-for-1, provided they don't have too strong units. But it's much, much better off in this situation if you flatten the smaller force of the three, right? The Northern Empire, Kazate, and Valandia. We're always going to choose to fight the Northern Empire in a situation. We'll wait for a little daylight here, and then we will smash this force very quickly in the open. On top of that, they are now engaging in the siege. That means when we fight them, we will also have the benefit of this small garrison pouring out to help us. We don't really need them, but it always helps you to have more troops. The troops that you have on the battlefield have to do with this, right? With the power bar. Because we now outnumber them, we're going to have considerably more troops on the battlefield, and that's going to make it even easier for us to smash them into pieces. All right, taking that castle. Another battle here again. A lot of players auto-resolve this, and I'll just do it for a couple seconds, but look at this shit. 7-13. We're suffering massive casualties. 29 casualties there to their 50. Let's leave. I bet we don't have... In fact, that's a good goal. That was just 50 of their troops destroyed with the AI. Let's see if we can't... the rest of the battle, in other words, the AI killed 50. Let's kill 350 without losing 29. Right? The AI lost 29 with only killing 50 troops in their highly inefficient manner. Let's see if we can't far exceed that. Now, again, the Peekaboo Ridge is deadly. If the enemy does not attack, we'll figure out a solution, but we're going to set up as if the enemy is going to attack us. It depends on their army composition. If they have a lot of cavalry, they will attack us, right? And so we will simply use this ridge here. It's difficult for a lot of players to see it, but the enemy cannot see us over the edge of that ridge. Think of it like a golf situation where there's a big, what are those things called? The hazards, right? And you can't see over it. It's not a good approach. That's what the enemy's dealing with here too. First 30 seconds of a fight, you can tell a lot. I'll stop my horse, look at the bottom number, and that'll tell you everything, right? 255, 254, their infantry there, right where my spear is, 246, 240. That means that force is coming towards us. That means they're going to die quickly because they're committing to charging our location here. Our entrenched location is going to be impossible for them to deal with. Let's see if they're still coming. Right, 209, 207, 204. It's really poor AI in this situation. There's no way they should be attacking us here, but it is what it is. They are, and so we'll take advantage of it. We're going to put our infantry and cavalry right toward the front. Our archers are back there in nice big spread lines, and of course what that's going to do, as soon as the enemy is visible here, you see how I can't see him either. As soon as the enemy comes up over this little hazard, they are going to get obliterated. It's also a very weak army. And again, this is why you see a lot of the fellas that come to our channel that are in the Discord. They are using mods like the Strengthen AI, and in some ways, maybe I could apologize from time to time on the channel. We do make Bannerlord much easier, right, than it is without the channel. Right, the guys who come to our channel get to a state of success where The game actually has to be modded in many cases for it to be challenging anymore. I could apologize on some level for that, but we don't. We're not doing that. You don't have to follow all these steps. Or, of course, you can simply change the difficulty. Now, it looked weird, but I just turned all those divisions so that the enemy can be bracketed here, right? Flanked. That means as they attack one side, the rest of the troops can come in on the other side. Nope, get back here, boys. I said, get in a square. The enemy just walked directly in between our troops. Now, notice I'm not attacking here at all. I'm just moving our units back. Our archers are working. There's no reason to rush this attack. Our archers are starting to come up to the ridge, so what we'll do here is simply put cavalry right at the ridge and a sheer wall. Now, the 1st and 3rd Division I'm going to drag towards me here because the enemy has trapped themselves, right? They're getting shot by archers, all these poor little peasants. And then it's a 3-legged attack, right? The 1st, 3rd, 2nd, and 6th all can charge. The 8th Corps can be added to the charge here as well. And the screen flushes green as this trapped, shot, surrounded Northern Empire force just melts in 30 seconds. In order to try to get our goal, right, of 29 casualties or less, I'm just taking the added step of dragging the cavalry division behind me so we run over all their archers, stop them from shooting. This battle is over in a blur. Now, the AI made multiple tactical mistakes there, right? We attacked. They should have let us come to them, right? They should have defended the ridge. Their archers sort of haplessly shot over the ridge instead of trying to flank. Their infantry walked straight into the middle of a trap. Their cavalry came in before the rest of their forces. I mean, you could write a long laundry list of the things that the enemy did wrong there. And let's see, 24 casualties. So you send the auto-resolve in, the AI has 29 losses and kills 50 enemy troops. We kill 350 and lose less than that. Where do you think you're going here, Jagoff? There's no escape, dude. Cut down a few more archers here. Whoops, sorry, dude. Killed that guy's horse. And look at him run. As not a single Northern Empire force makes it back to their hovel. All right, moving right along here. We're going to put a little force in the garrison, and I'm going to take a very momentary brief break because nature calls. All right, so the garrison's banged up here, and I noticed this. This guy actually escaped, and Curion runs for the hills. So they did have one survivor, and that's not going to amount to much. I am going to put a few more troops in the garrison here, and at this difficult stage, there is very much a balance, right? What we want to do, of course, is come in here and make sure this is triggered, right? It's adding militia every day. It'll add more at a lower level, a lower amount of militia. In other words, if you have 20 militia, it adds more militia per day than when there's 200 militia in the castle. There's sort of a balancing act to that. When you have hardly any defenders, there's a lot more volunteers, evidently, for the city. And of course, when you have a lot, evidently, there's not enough food or barracks or something like that. We are going to add just a few troops here to the garrison. I'm going to go run to Varcheg to get some more troops. But it's becoming difficult, right? Because you really don't want to leave all these archers, all these good troops in these cities. But this is the kind of thing you just have to do. Now I'm going to go through here and just kind of take a mix of some of these troops. Doesn't matter too much, right? These troops are all kind of the same as far as quality. The difference between a Battanian horseman and a Sturgeon veteran caravan guard is negligible. If they're tier 5, they're tier 5. Now there are a few units that maybe tier 5 to tier 5 are a little better than the other. There are guys out there that swear the heroic Linebreaker is better than the Manavleton. I don't really think that's the case. I think there is very, very subtle differences between the units, close enough so that you don't have to make those arguments, right? I don't think that's necessarily very beneficial to you fellas out there, to trying to be that precise with which unit is better. What I think you need to do more importantly than that is have good campaign strategy, build the right army composition, and know how to use that army. Now they're already running to us, right? They want us to pay still for peace. We're not going to accept that, right? Daniel, you already have 2 different kingdoms that you're paying for peace. We're not going to do that. So in the short term, we'll do this kind of quickly. We are going to consolidate our gains. Now let's talk about threats. The Sturgeons, they're no threat, right? There's a possibility, very remote possibility, they send an army up here to attack us, but it's very remote. The Northern Empire is our clearest threat, right? They're right there. They're very likely to send more troops our way. The two looming threats that really will probably be resolved with money is Valandia and Kazate. Now, if you zoom back a little ways, again, we showed this in one of the earlier episodes, they're by far the two biggest players on the board. And just like the game of Risk, you want to get out of their way, right? These guys want to fight each other, so much for the better for us. In fact, again, to talk about the concept, England, while the rest of, or Great Britain, I guess, if you want to call it that, at the time, they were very content with Europe fighting each other, right? All throughout Europe, different kingdoms, the Prussians, the French, the Austrians, the Hungarians and whatnot, they were fighting. And what the English essentially did for a couple, 3 centuries is encourage those countries to fight each other. Meanwhile, they consolidated their colonial and other gains they were making, right? They consolidated through treaties. All the meanwhile, they were advancing their fiscal position, just far outpacing their enemies in due time. And that process led to a long period of British dominance in the world. The 18th century, or I guess we'll call it the 19th century, the 1800s were very much Great Britain's century, and by many accounts the 1700s were also. That was where they started to really form their overwhelming hegemony over the world. And again, part of the reason they did that, part of the success they had to get to that spot, was staying out of wars, right? They would let other people fight. They might provide some money, but usually when they participated in a war, it was actually to the side that was weaker, right? They would try to maintain a balance of power. And I would recommend you do something like that in your campaign. I'm just literally just buying shit here because I don't want to give this town our extra money. We're still trying to be careful with Daniel's money. We still have a governor here we are at Varcheg, and we're going to put a little bit money towards construction projects, right? This town is stable. We talk about all the time. There's loyalty. Its prosperity is starting to build up day to day. You want to do these little checks periodically here with this little scoreboard. The tax is kind of pitiful, but it is increasing steadily, right? Because the security, the prosperity, everything is trending green here, right? The colors are intentional. That way you know positive outcomes are occurring. The parentheses is tomorrow. So there's more food coming in tomorrow. The net effect of more food to towns is that it increases your prosperity. Over 300 or over, I think it's 700 for a tier 3 city, you get this effect, surplus food, and that affects your prosperity. You can think of prosperity as people coming to your cities, right? And that's what you want, right? Now, there is a point where it can be too much because it becomes difficult to feed those people. But in the short term, we want to power level that prosperity. Now, I'm not in a tremendous hurry here. In fact, I might even swing all the way over to Omor. We are trying to recruit as many troops as possible in as short a period of time because the Northern Empire is coming again, right? At some point or other, all these beatings, they are probably going to pay Daniel and his kingdom here for peace. But in the short term, the AI is still running through its calculations. It's looking at this diplomacy saying, we win, right? We have 3 or almost 4 times the strength of the enemy here, even though look at the casualties afflicted, right? This is almost 4-1, and we have 18 prisoners of the Northern Empire rotting away in prison. I think the little things when it pops up over here, you know, they've sent a courier hoping for peace. I think those are going to get, well, I don't think, I know those are going to get more and more generous. And we do a little tool quest here. The reason you're doing these, of course, is that when you go back to recruit troops, you get even better troops. You constantly want to be doing the little fetch it quests that your guys have you do. You can send your companions on those, and the tools, and there's a couple others where you basically just click the button a few times and you get positive relation with your villages. Very, very important to keep doing that, right? And again, that goes back to our ultimate goal of getting more troops here. Now, we're also going to swing into Northern Empire territory because as we've been talking about this whole campaign, this is one of the best ways to get troops, is to go to these foreign villages and say, we are looking for volunteers. Correction. Give us your children. Give us your 20-year-olds. We're not asking. We're taking them, right? And you can basically force these Northern Empire forces to fight for your side.
I am it.
Another one, a perfect one. He's looking for tools. I think we have enough tools, right? And you just click, 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 click. The net result of all this, you increase relations, you get carpal tunnel, and then you get better units for your army. All along, I'm just buying all the horses and food nonstop. And it might feel a little bit reckless. I'm just buying everything. I'm spending Daniel's money here, but there's a purpose for it. At some point or other in a campaign, you are going to have a setback. You're going to lose. You're going to get trapped. Something awful is going to happen, and you're going to want to have a starting place ready to go, almost like a saved file for your computer in case your computer burns down in a fire, right? You want to have a backup file so that you don't have to start from scratch, right? Reload all your Microsoft Edge bookmarks and stuff like that. The same thing applies to Bannerlord. You want to have the ability, if your army is captured, to very quickly start over. Now, these insolent archers are attacking. Again, if you were being very tedious here, I would say fight this, spread out your troops as wide as possible, and then rack up the upgrades. Here, we'll get a handful of upgrades just by auto-resolving it. You can do it more efficiently, but since I'm trying to move these episodes along, that's more than sufficient. You know, again, we tell these villages, give us your troops, and then you get to this screen, 15 recruits, right? That's more than we're getting even from our own loyal villages, right? Now, you don't want to go to neutral cities and do that. Which way is this guy going? Good, right? Good. More forces for us to kill. It's probably going to be a bridge battle. That'll favor us. There are very few battles where tactics don't work, right? This dipshit traveling to Mazadon to attack. I actually wouldn't mind at all if like 700-800 Northern Empire forces fought us, because the more that fight us here, the more we can capture all at the same time. Now, I'd prefer there was daylight. We're going to shove this guy back here to some of his other armies. He's running. The AI's like, this guy's undefeated. He's got 11 battles in a row. Maybe we should get more help. And so he waited, or she waited, till they had a little bit of help. It might not be quite as much daylight as I would prefer for a battle like this. Of course, you guys are going to have a harder time seeing with less daylight, but we will try to move through this and explain some basic tactics here. Now, unfortunately, these are all easy battles. These are battles that a lot of these, you could almost F1, F3, and you would win these. I wish, honestly, we were fighting twice as many troops, because it would be a lot more clear that the tactics were essential. But we can still show you quite a bit of tactics here. In fact, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this is probably to trap some of their cavalry and then come up here and slam them with archers. So I'm actually going to purposefully start with all of our units way over here. And then we will run up and pound their troops as they cross the bridge. Again, I mentioned it one more time here. One of the most critical distinctions to understand in this situation is they attacked us. I have no need to cross the bridge and go to them. They're the ones that are being the aggressor here. That is enormous in Bannerlord, because it means that the enemy has to come to you. And they have a mixed army here, but it's mostly infantry. So let's just cut them off at the bridge here. That'll be more than effective. And I want this little high ground here for our archers, because we're going to rain arrows into the sides of these sturgeons. Very difficult to see these flags. This is part of the reason we use the RTS mod on the channel, is that trying to be an instructional channel, it doesn't really help you guys if you can't see, especially in the dark, you know, that I'm putting troops there, putting troops there. Now, I don't want the enemy to get hundreds of cavalry across the bridge. That's why I'm kind of running up in a hurry here. I probably could have done that from the get-go. We're not about to let these lords or these horse archers get across. And so we'll bring some cavalry up here at the beginning. Now, their infantry is closing pretty quickly here. So this is going to be kind of messy. In fact, I can get cut off here if I'm not careful. What I'm going to do is send our cavalry across the bridge in a charge. Right? And then I'm going to try to fight my way to the other side. Now, if you get stuck here, what I recommend is actually getting off your horse. Right? I'm actually trying to cut through our own horses here because they're in the way. Now, this first infantry division, I want right here at the bridge. The third I can actually just charge with, and that'll start butchering their infantry. The guys that are through here, the 6th division can attack. Meanwhile, the rest of their shields are now penned up on the bridge. Whatever guys got through are going to get rapidly cut down. Critically, of course, our archers are firing away right into the flanks of the enemies. All those infantrymen that are on the bridge can't move at all. They're getting butchered. The 1st division can be added to the carnage here. All of our cavalry is attacking. And this is literally going to be a 60-second massacre. The enemy troops, some of them don't even have shields. They're dumb enough actually to bring their archers up here to the slaughter. Now they're going to get some kills, right, because our units are fighting in heavy combat, but not very many. They're poor mobiles, just don't have a chance. We can expel all of this guy's javelins here and move it right along. And like I said, this is why I wish it was 900 troops, because it would be just a more expeditious way to destroy them. Now, our army here is not really designed for super advanced tactics. What I mean by that is he doesn't have an enormous amount of skirmishers. Guys ask all the time, what's the right units for Bannerlord? I keep saying it, and I keep sort of getting ignored, by especially sort of the Reddit crowd. That's why I want to mention it here. This guy probably is not one of those guys who's sort of obstinate. There are a lot of guys out there, they've played 50 hours of Bannerlord, and they're sure they know the answer. I mean, I have 1,000 hours, maybe 5,000 hours playing Bannerlord. I'm pretty sure I have the answer. And one of the biggest things is just having ranged units. We talked about it a lot during this 4-episode series. Your ranged units are critical for tactics and Bannerlord. It's also some of your absolutely best units, simply pound for pound. Your Battanian wildlings are unbelievably powerful units if used correctly. That's the key, if used correctly, right? Part of the reason people think the Battanian wildling sucks is that they ran them up to the enemy like they were legionnaire and tried to cut through them. That's not how you're supposed to use them, right? You're supposed to use them efficiently, effectively, separate them from other infantry, kite with them, flank with them, skirmish with them. After all, the Battanian wildling really could just be labeled an expert skirmisher. That's what they are, right? It's the best skirmisher in the whole game. The only one that you can say is even in the conversation, besides them, would be, of course, the Aserai Vanguard Ferris, but they're a mounted unit, right? So I guess you could say they're a mounted skirmisher, but I don't know if that even really applies. Now, let's be a little strategic here. You see what's going on here. The enemy's got a whole bunch of archers, right? Now, a lot of guys, I mean, the easiest thing to do here for sure, in fact, let's just do it. It'll take too long. I would say all you have to do is just run to the very edge of the map, and all of these archers will actually have to come to us. I've already sort of committed here, and so we're going to continue this episode. Also, I'm wary about, taking 8 extra minutes for, look at the power bar. This battle is beyond over. Right? The enemy's completely smashed here. So we'll do a little flanking action with our cavalry. But in this situation, if it was close especially, I would just say simply pull back. Again, the enemy attacked us. Absolutely no reason for us to attack here other than I'm making a YouTube video, and I don't want this to take 2 hours. So main infantry divisions charging, 2nd, 8th following me. That's our cavalry divisions here, and we're doing that strictly to keep the archers moving. Right? We just want these guys doing exactly what they're doing. They're sort of panicked, running around, looking for a place to stand where there's not a heavy horse, and there won't be any, right? Because we're simply following them like dogs. Meanwhile, our infantry closes. You're dead! Right? You can cue all the normal moments here as another Northern Empire force is waxed. 60, maybe 70 losses when this is all said and done. Now, I think he has the hero deaths turned to 0%, which is good, because I'm always leery of playing these campaigns and losing somebody's heroes, especially, as you guys can imagine, after playing for an hour without a save game. What if I lost 3 of his heroes to combat here, killed in action, killed in action, killed in action? It's not really appropriate for me to send you guys save games back where your companions get killed. Well, I saved your save file and I killed your favorite 3 companions. That's not going to be real popular. So I'm actually considering on some level just changing that setting for guys, right? When they hand over their trade game, it's a trade. When they hand over their save game, just setting the hero deaths to 0%. That way there's no chance of having a disaster like that. You understand the conundrum I am dealt with, I am suddenly positioned with if I kill, 2-3 of your companions in a battle, especially after I've played for an hour. I've been narrating. I'll be forced to either save scum, which I don't want to do, or forced to kill your companions, which I really don't want to do, right? It's really a no-win situation for me. Now, a vital thing here. I don't really want to take Epicrotia or Ove Castle. We talked about it before, talked about it strategically in this board of war right now. There are some guys that would just plow through and continue taking Northern Empire locations, right? Let's just attack attack Epicrotia, seize that as well. What I'd highly recommend you do here in this campaign situation, Daniel and other people watching, is consolidate your power. All right, what we're going to do is basically run up and down this valley. Every single village, we're going to do this, right? Give me your sons until we have 600-700 troops. And I still may not attack at that stage. We want to develop a big enough army so that if, when is more like it, the the Khazate and or the Valandians declare war on us, we can turn around and say, okay, we're no longer interested in peace. Now we're interested in killing you fucks, right? That's a critical thing to understand here. If you take Epicrotia, if you take Meklovia, suddenly the AI sees you as, a target. Suddenly you're sort of in the way here, in between where they're trying to expand. And of course, just like England, that's part of the reason that England didn't take a third of Europe, even though they probably could have, is that you're antagonizing your enemies to attack you directly. You want to avoid that, right? Because then there's no feeling that you're at war directly with your enemies. Now I'm going to try to cut that guy off. I really don't want any armies getting by us here. We have a nice tactical situation in that this little funnel valley, that's the only way that the enemy can really get to us, right? Realistically, the Northern Empire can't get units to our other cities and castles except through here, right? So I've done it before. We're going to do it again here. I'm going to go to our companion. She's got mostly infantry. Let's see here. Yeah, we just don't have very many cavalry. Let's go ahead and just take some of her troops, and I'm going to basically give her every single cavalry unit I can, because we're going to use her as an attack dog division, right? We've done this before in this series. It takes a little bit of finesse, takes a little bit of luck, takes a little bit of understanding kind of how the AI works here. But we're going to lose her on this army that's running, trying to get north. And then, of course, anything else that we want to have her seek and destroy. I forgot to mention that. I think I mentioned before. Take all her prisoners. Even if it overruns your prisoners, then I'd recommend you dump those prisoners, because that'll slow her down considerably, having all these extra prisoners. Now, what if I don't do this, right? The net negative is that they may run all the way to Varcheg or something like that, siege a castle, and what that'll ultimately do is present us with a problem. We either have to go up there and defend that, which takes us a long time, or we just have to let it fall. Neither of those are very appetizing at this stage, right? If we can keep the Northern Empire in this valley, in other words, the vast majority of their forces forming here, he just started to run, we want to essentially herd them all to the south. That way, this little chute here, this little valley, is really the only way that they can get north to deal any damage to us, right? They do have a bunch of small armies down here. I think this guy might squeeze through here. Let's see here. At a minimum, he's going to get into the city. Now, I don't want her going south, right? I released our little attack dog division. I'm going to call her back here because we are going to track down this force here, right? It doesn't matter what it takes at this stage. I'm not letting this Northern Empire force roam about the map and attack our shit. Now, it feels like time wasted, but we have the luxury of time here, right? We're not fighting anybody. We're not at war with anybody, right? Other than the Northern Empire. And so we have one target in front of us. The Sturgeons, ostensibly we're at war with the Sturgeons, but not really, fellas, right? Think about where the Sturgeons are. They are way down here. We've talked about a couple times. And if we see Sturgeons, they're more than likely going to come through this valley as well. You get to act like Napoleon in this regard, basically thinking about all the different tactical components of war. You're thinking about strategic options. You're thinking about, hey, does the enemy have another route here, right? Maybe I should watch that. Where are they likely to attack? Your weakest castles are going to be attacked first, right? Mazadon Castle is almost certainly going to get sieged here if we let this force get by us. Now, we're not going to let them, right? We're going to release our attack dog and move back, right? They may run a little bit, but at some point or other, it's very likely that she'll catch up with this division here, right? We are using her as bait. We're very good at it here. And if they run into the city, we'll deal with it. Right now, she's just loose. Now, if she just runs off like that, she's not really helping us, although she is going to run down that little small army. There's almost no way to bring them back to you at that stage, too, when they're chasing somebody like that. Even if you call them back to you, they'll just keep running, right? Because they have basically a target where they feel like it's imminent destruction of that force. By the way, look at this. This is your enemies fighting, right? That's a beautiful thing. their little power bar certainly isn't going up. If anything, it's going down because they're fighting each other. Now, she's going to engage that force. In fact, she's already doing it. You can see the wounded there for... It'll probably go up here soon. She just captured him. And again, we have this Northern Empire force just dead to rights here. This is also one of the worst parts of the AI. They'll continue to send armies that have 0% chance of defeating your force. And so this is what some of the players sort of... They'll complain it's either bad AI, which is probably accurate, or more often I hear the AI should just be a little bit more dynamic. It's very repetitive. Like this force here, ostensibly they're coming to Mazadon Castle. We've known that for a long time, right? And this force is just, now they're cornered, now they're trapped. It's way too late for them to run. We'll wait until she gets up here. That way they're smashed even worse. And the game gets pretty easy once you get to this stage. Again, just a complete massacre. Again, it'll be a bridge battle. We'll try to be a little bit more precise here. I wish these battles, were a little bit more, more all-inclusive, but I want to include some of this gameplay where it's maybe not as exciting to me and some of the fellas that come to the channel all the time. The luxury you guys have is you don't have to watch every one of these episodes. Now, I'm hopeful that they play defensive here, right? Now, we attack them. You would think that the AI would use their opportunities where they get attacked to play defensive, and of course, that'll give me an opportunity to show you how do you deal with defensive enemies. The main, easiest way, of course, is envelopment. The second way to do it is to pound them with ranged units until they basically decide, well, this shit ain't working, right? Our current strategy is not working. Let's change something, right? They might even go to a bridge point. It looks like they're considering it. And again, this is why I talk all about range superiority. We don't have to attack these guys. I know it seems like we do, right? They've got... now this is even worse. Their cavalry is just happily coming up here to get smashed. I know sometimes it probably sounds like I'm just beating on the game. That is because the AI is highly exploitable once you understand it. Now, theoretically, they're holding a ridge there, right? Their archers are holding a ridge, but we have what I call ranged superiority. Just like modern military, where air superiority and or technological superiority is everything. That's why the United States is just kind of trucking everybody. We have the ability here just to move in on our enemy and pound them with ammunition until their infantry charges. If we had to charge their position, we would suffer a lot more losses than what we're actually going to suffer. Now over here, I'm just going to block their cavalry with the division of our cavalry, right? You see me playing defensive frequently with our cavalry. They're trying to bring their archers up here to shoot us, but it's just not going to be very effective. Over here in the trees, I'm positioning a cav unit in the trees. That way, as the enemy charges those cavalry, they hit trees, right? We're using our natural barriers. Anytime that we have some kind of barrier like that, we're going to use it. Our infantry in a very thick shield wall. The reason you want it thick is that the guys that don't have a shield will be behind guys that do have a shield. Right? Your job, of course, is to be a terrorist with the pole arm. Our archers are spreading out. Of course, even just doing this is very hampering to the enemy archers. I'm running over every third guy. I'm killing every 10th guy. Our cavalry's kind of in here slashing at them. Meanwhile, our units are just pounding the enemy with ranged units. Now, we know they're going to charge. It's not maybe. 100% our infantry is going to charge us because once the enemy gets obliterated bad enough by ranged units, they say, fuck it, change the strategy here. That's inevitable. That's why range superiority is so important. We're basically going to make the enemy come to us. Now, they're suffering seriously before that even happens, right? Their guys are being smashed. We've got our infantry there absorbing shields. We're setting these guys up here to come in and bore in and charge, right? So this is the 2nd Division and an infantry division behind them. A lot of this is probably starting to get repetitive to some of you fellas, right? You guys have now seen this for 3-4 hours if you watch this whole series. So they're charging our 1st Division towards the center. They get told to square. That's their defense. Over here, skirmishers are throwing weapons into the enemy. The enemy's still being pounded. Over here, the 6th Division can actually just be backed up a little bit. The longer our archers get to work here, the better. Now, on that far side, I have that 3rd Division. I'm going to pull them and the 2nd Division in here so that the enemy again is surrounded. They're kind of confused as to what to do because there's this ironclad square right in front of their face. Now everybody gets to charge. Well, in fact, you can just fucking all charge here. The 6th Division bores in on the other side of the 3rd Division, clamps in here on the enemy, and just like a lot of these other battles, the screen just fizzes with green death spam here. The enemy, as usual, has a handful of archers that escaped. That's where your job. You roll in here, and it's hack and slash time with your cavalry, your other units. And this is, ironically, this is where they're going to get most of their kills, is with their archers. Right? Even though they have very few archers, these guys will rack up kills because they're shooting units that are fighting. And that's why you're in here just mangling, harassing, cutting them down. And a very, very short and sweet battle. And 38 casualties, right? 40 casualties there when it's all said and done, and a nice heap of upgrades, right? That's another critical component of this. Now, when guys talk about the snowball and Bannerlord, this is what they're referring to. Each one of these battles, our enemy's getting weaker and weaker. Each one of these battles, we're getting stronger and stronger. And in 4 or 5 different ways, we're getting stronger. We're getting money. Your character's gaining levels. Your companions are gaining levels. Your units are upgrading left and right. We're gaining loot. We're gaining influence. We're gaining all kinds of stuff. We're gaining territory. Meanwhile, your enemy's being pounded into a corner here. Now, I don't know why the battle's not over. And again, I wish I had the old RTS mod. There it goes. Your guys scream with glee. And the enemy is just disheveled, taken prisoner here. This is a nice bonus. One of their armies had a bunch of prisoners. We'll take them all. They still lack skirmishers in this army. I'm going to really encourage Daniel and everybody else to use skirmishers. We've used skirmishers to great effect on the channel, and it's another one of the examples of a unit that's not used very well in Bannerlord. What I mean by that is your average guy on Reddit doesn't really understand the power of skirmishers. Now, this is a critical choice, I think, because of Daniel's position here in this campaign. Very few. I'm going to do 5 infantry upgrades from recruit to the archer or infantry line. Right? You have that choice. All of the rest, I'm going to do archers. And it seems extreme, but you still don't even have a mix here of 50-50. You really want to have more archers to have success in Bannerlord. Nice piece of armor here. Again, we'll just pile up this loot here for Daniel. I don't think it matters too much. And the Northern Empire is reeling. Now, we could start taking more castles, but I still think that we're fine just in consolidation mode here. Right? We're just moving around. We're collecting troops. Our army's getting bigger every single battle. Right? Every time we fight one of these, or at least every 3 or 4 times we fight one of these, our army's getting bigger. That's because all along the way, we're telling these villages, give us your sons, right? Give us your troops. When we get prisoners, of course, it's adding to that. I don't think we can... Yeah, there's a limit between the time where you can basically order these villages to give you troops. But 569 troops, right? Of course, none of our units are getting captured. In fact, Savannah is up in the north gathering troops. So now we add her to our army, and now we really do have a powerful army, right? Almost 700 troops. By the time we collect a few more of the enemy's sons here for battle, it's going to be... give or take 700 units. Now, I'm still waiting for sort of a culminating battle. I would presume that the Northern Empire is busy. I haven't looked in a little while. Take a look at this. Of course, we have this perfect intel. This is not really realistic either. They're fighting 2 other kingdoms, the Aserai and the Sturgeon. Right? So let's just glance over here. The Northern Empire is right here. The Sturgeons doesn't really count, right? That's them. But the Aserai do, right? There's a huge kingdom of the Aserai, and look what's going on here, right? The Northern Empire is busy. So they're getting punched by 3 people. Meanwhile, we're kicking them in the back and pulling their wallet out of their pocket. And the day is ours, right? Just like your guys say. At this stage, the Northern Empire will be sending a peace offer where it's like, please take our money. Now, this is our nobles. When your nobles say peace in this situation, tell them to STFU, right? Why? Because you're not going to get a favorable peace treaty. This is a leverage thing to understand. The basic way to think about it is, say you have a car you kind of want to sell, and you know some people are interested in your car. It's much better to wait for them to make an offer on your car. Say you have a luxury old car. From a leverage perspective, you don't want them to know that you want to sell your car, right? You might make a hint, that way they actually initiate an offer. Or, you might have some sort of way of presumably making sure that the people that you want to negotiate know that your car is available for sale. But don't don't go out there and just, list a price. Make them come to you, and don't list that initial price, right? Don't say, I would take 6,000. Let them offer. Why? Because they may make an offer that's way more than you presumed you would make, right? All right, now we're forking here. There's two different ways. There's two different ways the Northern Empire can get to where we are here. This is a little less optimal, right? Because that means an army of 1,200 theoretically could come up the other side of the valley. This is where that scouting skill is really important. And I think, Beowulf doesn't have much scouting skill. Does he have a good scout here? Okay, it's good, right? So actually we do have good scouting skill. This fella, Daniel, at least has a great scout. His engineering skill it sort of leaves a lot to be desired, even though this guy does get this next perk. I'm going to leave most of these perks for you, Daniel. I would say you want to continue pushing that. In fact, I'm not going to do it for you, but I would definitely add that point to his engineering, right? You really want a high-level engineer as you cruise through the world of Bannerlord. At this stage of a Bannerlord campaign, you are going to fight siege after siege after siege, whether it's on defense or offense. I've mentioned it before, probably a solid half of your battles are going to be a siege at this stage. Right now, I did that. I don't know if you noticed that I disbanded Savannah intentionally because she becomes an instantaneous missile of destruction here, right? She's not part of our army. We're now chasing this poor fuck. He's going to get more troops, which is ironically going to slow him down. He's got nowhere to run to, although we probably can make it in that Western Empire city. So let's go ahead and release our other attack dog here. It'll take, I think it's normally 6 hours before Serena, the dispossessed, loses her little disorganized state. And now these Northern Empire forces are dead men. If they go the other way, like she's going the other way, call her towards you. In fact, I can call Savannah here too. Savannah's over there just visiting the villagers or something like that. Maybe she's trying to pick up some digits there. Now this guy might be able to get into this. If this is a neutral castle, sometimes that's a thing. Now they rejoined us. This is another critical point. So again, we're trying to chase him down. Look at this. 2.6. In fact, we're in the trees, so he's moving even faster. 3.6. The AI is so incapable of handling a campaign situation like this. 100% of the time, you should be able to capture them. There's a couple ways to do it. The easiest way is just to give them bait, right? I took my companion army and disbanded them. Now, this will be the last fight, I think, for this episode, because we have thoroughly beaten the enemy's horse to death. Now, right now, it says engaging Hecaron party. She can't catch him, but as soon as she loses her disorganized state, she can. She's got a speed of 3.4. The enemy's 2.2. We're catching him, right? This guy's a dead man. I think. This is weird. I wonder why. It's making me look bad here. It doesn't matter. They just trapped themselves on this little peninsula. I'm actually going to leave Serena up there. She's going to raid a village. You got a devious companion here. I don't know why that was happening there, other than this gal was hesitant. I think I understand why. She's got a bunch of prisoners, and it was slowing her down. Look at that. Yeah, see it at the bottom there? First, she doesn't have a full army of cavalry. To make an optimal attack dog division, I want 100% cavalry. They will move like a lightning bolt and get rid of all their prisoners. You can either disband them or just manually take them off their hands. In this case here, it doesn't really matter because this Northern Empire force painted themselves into a corner. Let's smash them here. Let's give it one more tactical advantage, demonstration for this episode, for this series, and we will call it good. We will return this save game to Daniel, give him 2 or 3 different choices here, and he will be well on his way to Calradic dominance. I think more importantly are the tactics, because, and I've mentioned this before, I would much rather give you guys a fishing lesson to teach you guys how to fish, right? This is a classic saying. Rather than give you fish to eat for a day, I would rather teach you guys how to fish. And, the analogy being, I would rather teach you guys dominant tactics than obviously help you with each step of the campaign. Our channel is supposed to be instructional to help you guys dominate. That way you can do this all on your own. You'll feel so much more satisfaction if you're doing all this on your own. That's why I don't encourage F1, F3. Now let's see what they do here. We've got an elevational advantage, right? Anytime you can muster an elevational advantage, you want to take it. We're going to fend off the enemy a little bit down here on this flank. We're going to put a horse archer division. an infantry division and a horse and a main cav division. Meanwhile, we're going uphill. Why? Again, because we've talked about it. We're going to gain the ranged advantage on this infantry force down there, pound them into the dust, and force them to charge us, at which point our units will collapse upon them, and you go on to fuck the prom queen, right? Victory. So second and third over there, and just bringing those forces up was enough to sort of chase the enemy off. Now the enemy's in an untenable position here, right? Napoleon in the Battle of Friedland had the Russians in this type of situation. They should be running, right? A good human player would definitely not sit where they are because they're so vulnerable. They are downhill with no archer advantage and basically waiting to die. If you speak Northern Empire, and I do, I'm fluent in all languages of Calradia, they got a sign down there that says we would like to be killed, right? We would like to die very badly in this battle. So they're actually kind of taking cover in the valley down there. That might be interesting because it might provide at least a little bit of an opportunity for us to do a little bit wider range of tactics. Good, right? They're doing some things here. It's almost like they listened to me. I was like, they should be backing up, looking for a better opportunity. They kind of have one here, right? I think this is great. The AI is sort of trying to do something. Now, it's still not going to save them, right? We're going to be able to funnel them. In fact, we're going to make a graveyard either in this river or close to the river. And block this one, dude. Flag bearers. Kill on sight. Alright, so pulling our archer divisions here right to the edge of this river. Now they're going to shoot our guys, right? 61 archers. That's just not enough to be worried about, right? We have a huge ranged advantage on the enemy here. So I'm just going to position our other units right at the edge here. In fact, we can position our 1st Infantry Division here. Get our 6th Division kind of to the north. Our 6th Division has some skirmishers, right? So those guys are going to be throwing javelins, but also shooting. We'll stick the 8th Cav Division up there to give them a little bit of protection. I always like to protect my archers, right? And you're really protecting against cavalry here in this situation. Meanwhile, we have this 3rd Division. It's kind of shock troops. We're going to put them down in the valley because I'm anticipating killing the enemy right here, right? We'll scrawl into the mud here, an X, where the enemy is going to be laid to waste, right? I just drew an X right there. This is even worse. I don't know what these guys are doing. Their archers are completely conflusticated, confused. The arrows are going to start to fly, and as I mentioned before, the AI is going to charge based on the results of what's going to happen here. This is going to be very uncomfortable for the enemy. The AI is not going to like this at all. It's trying to figure out some way to use its archers here, and everything it's going to do here is just not going to work very well. Because they don't have ranged advantage here, they're really kind of at our mercy. Now they're going almost directly to that spot in the mud, right, where I said the enemy's going to die en masse. We've got our 3rd Division of murderers and shock troops just waiting down here for them. Our archers are safely pounding away on the enemy. Let's get this 6th Division up here, right? We need these guys involved. Get over here. Now the 8th Division, I'm just going to charge. They're kind of up here on the hillside. Unless we get them into the valley here, they're not going to be of much use. This 1st Division, just hold a shield wall. Just don't even charge. Just hold them there, right? We want the enemy getting shot. They're also walking right into the middle of a trap, right? They're now charging. It's good. We want them to. Right? Our archers are moving up. That 6th Division is moving up. Those guys can be told to charge. Over here, this 3rd Division of murderers, they can be told to charge. Your archers, move them right to the edge. That way they could shoot down into the heads of the enemy forces. If they can't see them, of course, they're not going to shoot. And it's only now that we charge with this division, this 1st Division. They are just holding the line, basically waiting for the enemy to commit. And maybe not quite in that spot. We slashed, scrawled our little X in the mud, but pretty close to that. And again, another battle where we're going to have like 50 casualties, maybe less, something like that. And at this stage, you can definitely F1 and F3. Join them here for the end of this episode. Get on some hand-to-hand combat. Beowulf's got a nasty character. It's been a pleasure playing your fellow there, Daniel. Thank you for letting me take your campaign here for a couple 4 hours. This episode here, you might not even be sort of keeping on your save game. The reason I said that is before I started this episode here, I sent him a save game and said, there you go, bud. Basically anticipating that would have been the last episode. Alas, I wanted to have a little bit more ass whipping here as part of this series. And certainly accomplished that mission here. So pretty close, right? I think that's pretty close to where we scrawled the X in the mud. And of course, sometimes this is where people leave the comments like, man, you have just mastered this game. I think so, right? We have certainly mastered at least the tactical side of Bannerlord. Again, 40 casualties and 10,000 enemies dead. And of course, we're exaggerating. None of your companions even got injured. A complete throttling here in a situation where, again, especially if you auto-resolve, but even F1, F3, I bet you suffer 150, something like that, losses there because your archers would be ill-positioned, etc. All right, fellas, I'd appreciate if you guys continue to send me your difficult situations. I can't promise I'm going to get to all of them. I've already turned down a couple. Guys that sent in save files where I was like, okay, I can't win that. There was also a couple where I was like, we had a battle like that very recently for the channel. I don't want to produce extreme redundancy for the channel. I want you guys to have fresh content. That way, when you click on an episode of Tactical Enlightenment, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be unique. The reason I'm here, of course, is for looks and likes and making a penny with every view. You get some really nice bolts here. I don't know which crossbow guy you got, but those are about some of the best bolts you can get in the whole game. Daniel, so you're going to be shredding Calradia very quickly here. You got just a giant heap of money, of loot. I'm not going to do it for you, but I would highly recommend you take a lot of these goods and horses and stuff like that back up to, let's see, I'm disoriented here. Hold on. Sorry if I just made everybody very dizzy. Snows to the north. I would encourage you to take a lot of these resources all the way back to the north and put them in a capital city, right? I would continue to reinforce your army, anticipate war with the Khazate and the Valandians, right? There was a post a couple months ago on Reddit that I had like the instantaneous reaction to, and it's a pretty simple reaction. It's a funny one too. This guy was like, I don't know what to do, when I have peace in my campaign. What do you guys do when there's peace in your campaign? And the answer is simple. Prepare for war, right? This game is about war. Just like Alexander or Frederick the Great or Napoleon or anybody else, peace opportunities are simply your moment to gather troops, gather forces, bring down forces from rebel, right? There's such a large militia force there, you could probably start to bring some of those forces down. Why? Because it's very difficult for the enemy to get way up in there to attack, right? It's almost like invading Russia. So those kind of tactical and strategic options we're going to continue to teach on the channel. Of course, we're going to continue to teach tactics here as our army smashes its way through Calradia. We're going to wrap this episode up right here. In fact, I'm going to make a save game for Daniel and complete this. I guess it'll be 4 episodes in this Disasters of War series. Now, if you want to submit your entry, the email should be listed in the video description. Please hit that like button on the way out. Of course, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. And I will see you, friends, next time.